Have I ever told you that the subcompact crossover market is plentiful? Well, it's only going to get busier now. Our spotlight is on this 2019 Volvo XC40 R-Design. It has a T5 engine, which is a turbocharged inline 4, produces 247 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque. It is the only engine available here in North America, and it comes with an 8-speed automatic transmission. Now, this subcompact crossover SUV competes with something like the BMW X1 that we featured, even the Audi Q3, or even the Mercedes GLA. But can this subcompact crossover stand out in an already very crowded market, or is it just going to blend in? We're going to show you everything about this car, take it on its road test, and go over everything you need to know if you're in the market for a new subcompact luxury crossover SUV. Now, the 2019 Volvo XC40 represents sort of the end of the big coverage we've been doing on Volvo cars over the last couple months. And because we're publishing this before the end of December 2018, I'm kind of considering this to be the end of that series. We do have plans to get the 2019 Volvo V60, the wagon, in a little while. I tried to book it during the Christmas break, but it wasn't available. So that will start a new coverage on basically what's new for 2019 going forward, but this is kind of wrapping that up. So everything we talked about in the S90, XC60, and XC90 videos were all part of this big series because we tried to cover everything throughout the course of them. I'm covering a couple other things that we didn't quite get in to those videos there. So I want to talk about this car, talk about some of the specific things that we wanted to discuss when it comes to Volvo's entire fleet lineup and everything else that you need to know if you're in the market for this car. Now, up front you have adaptive LED headlights. We've talked about them before. The lights will turn, they'll bend as they call them. You can disable that through the infotainment system. And then there's also LED fog lights at the bottom. Now, if you're in Europe, where you're not supposed to have your fog lights on unless you need them, they'll act as quartering lamps. They will here as well. There's no change, but we usually use them even if there's no fog here. There's no law against it. So if your fog lights are on, nothing will change. But if they're off, but they'll act as quartering lamps. So when you go around a corner or turn on your turn signal, they'll come on to help illuminate that direction. So I really do like the front end lighting of this, especially with the Thor's Hammer LEDs. They actually call it that. If you take a look at Volvo's website, it's not just us journalists who've been calling it that. That's actually the way that they market their lights. So you've got the front LED headlights, front fog lights, the R-Design front grille, which is very nice, a little different than both the Momentum or the Inscription grills, a little bit more sport oriented. And in the center of it, you have Volvo's Iron Mark with the 360-degree camera for the front portion there. You also have front and rear parking sensors on this car and park assist, which will do both parallel and perpendicular parking. Now, Volvo includes a lot of safety tech that's standard on their vehicles. So for example, this one comes with IntelliSafe as standard. It'll identify vehicles, pedestrians, cyclists, and even large animals. So there's a 4-step system to it. It identifies it first. It'll then let you know that it's there. It'll then tell you if you're going to hit it. And then in the event of emergency, if you can't stop the car, it will do it for you. Now, Volvo also has a vision when it comes to their overall safety. They claim that they want to get to the point where nobody is killed or seriously injured in any new Volvo vehicle by the year 2020. With tech like this, I can certainly see them going in the right direction, but that is a very big, bold claim for them to make. I hope they can make it happen because obviously vehicle safety and the people that are inside these cars are paramount. So if they can really make it happen, make these cars safer, I think it'll be good for the industry moving forward. Now, I want to talk a little bit about those safety features first in a little bit more detail than we did last time. Now, IntelliSafe is standard on this vehicle from Volvo, and it comes with a lot of things that you really do need from a safety perspective. As I mentioned, IntelliSafe, it'll detect, warn, prepare, and brake you in the event of whether it's a pedestrian, a cyclist, a large animal, or another vehicle. There's also run-off-road mitigation, so if it detects that you're driving off the road, it'll try to prevent that. It also has oncoming lane mitigation, so if you're moving out of the lane, it'll keep you in the lane. Slippery road and hazard light alert, we'll talk about that in a minute. Driver alert control, road sign information, and lane keeping aids. So when you're driving along, it'll keep you in the lane as well. So that's all standard on this car, no matter what trim you get. Now, we do have a couple packages on here. It adds enhanced safety tech. So you also get blind spot information, rear collision warnings, which if somebody's coming behind you, it'll prepare the vehicle in the event of an accident, cross traffic alert, pilot assist, which is semi-autonomous highway driving mode, 360-degree camera system, and the park assist pilot. As I mentioned, it's perpendicular and parallel parking. Now I want to talk about two of those safety features real quick in more depth. The slippery road alert isn't just the same system that we see on pretty much every car. It'll pop up and tell you that the road is icy under 3 degrees Celsius. It's much more innovative than that. Road friction is measured during steering, braking, and acceleration. If the computer detects that there could be slippery conditions, the driver will be alerted of it. But that information is also sent to the Volvo cloud, so that other Volvo drivers who are in that area will get that information sent to their cars. So if they're driving along the same area, they'll be notified before they get to that point that there could be slippery conditions ahead. This is the kind of technology I expect to see as more cars become connected to the internet, and I think Volvo really has the potential to lead the way when it comes to that. That is some pretty cool tech there. Now, I also mentioned hazard alert. It's something that you might not think of because, a lot of us, especially if you're watching this show, you're probably a pretty attentive driver anyway. But the hazard alert system will actually detect if it sees a car up ahead with the hazards on and warn the driver. It sounds really simple, but it could save a life. Most people are driving along. Maybe you'll just kind of zone out a little bit. You might see that car, but you won't think of it. It's just a little reminder to say, hey man, somebody's pulled over there. Just be a little cautious as you go by them. So cool little things there. I haven't seen either of those techs on any other vehicle. So cool stuff coming from Volvo that I wanted to spend an extra minute talking about. Now for the loyal Volvo enthusiasts out there, you're probably thinking, wait a minute, these are not the R-Design rims. And you are correct. I believe these are the 18-inch rims off the Momentum trim, but because they have winter tires on them, Volvo has decided to take off the 19-inch double spoke rims and put these on instead. It's not a problem for us. We see this actually a lot with the luxury manufacturers here in Montreal. They'll put a different set of winter tires on with a different set of winter rims. So I think the car still has a good look to it, just not the exact look you'd get if you were to buy this with the R-Design trim. Now you've got power folding mirrors. They will deploy when you unlock the car. And then again, when you lock it, there's buttons. They'll do it automatically. You can turn that off if you want for whatever reason, but I like the feature there. Some cars like BMW, you usually have to push the button when you do it. You do have this two-tone design to the car. I like it. I mean, if you get the car in black, it'll all be black. But when it comes to the R-Design, you get this two-tone look. With the Momentum, you can get a white roof if you wanted to, and they have different color of paint. If you go up to the inscription trim, ends up being roughly the same price for the same kit. You do get a few extra luxury-oriented features on the inside, but you are limited to which colors you can get for the outside, and it's the whole car. So a couple things to note there. I like the two-tone. I think it gives this car a unique look. There's not a lot of vehicles out there that give you the option to do two-tone, but it seems to be popular in the subcompact crossover market. Now, the only other thing here to basically denote that this is an R-Design version are the C-pillars here. There's a little R-Design built into it. The inscription models would say inscription up there. It's different. The other vehicles that we've driven from Volvo usually have it on the front doors, so it changes it up a little bit. But we're going to jump around back now, and then we'll jump inside. Now the back-end design of the XC40 is a little similar, but quite different at the same time when it comes to the XC60 and XC90. You do have these wedge-shaped taillights on either side. I think it's got a good look to it. You've got the fog lights actually at the bottom with reflectors. That's a little different. You do have the large Volvo lettering along the back too, and sort of this part of the trunk right here in the middle flows, but the rest of it is a little different. Now, looking at a lot of the other subcompact crossovers, both in the luxury segment and the consumer segment, you don't usually get this squared off back end. I know it's not really squared off, but it is a lot taller back here than you would find on a lot of other vehicles. Some of them are really coupe styles where you have a very bubbly top end. So I think you get a lot more space here, a lot more room to be able to store taller items in the back end. Now you've got the LED taillights there. You've got your camera system on the back for the backup camera and parking sensors. And just like we would expect from Volvo, you've got the easy access trunk. We actually don't see this a lot in the subcompact crossover market, let alone any of the subcompact cars, and it is nice to have. The trunk space here is good. I certainly have no complaints about it. It really feels more like a compact crossover than a subcompact just because of how much space you actually have in the trunk here. So if you do have large items that you want to use, put in there, you've got the space for it. With one of the packages that we get, you also have a 12-volt outlet in the back here, plus power folding rear seats. So you can click the buttons on the side and you can drop them that way. Headrests will drop automatically. like we would expect. You can close the trunk from the button, or you can lock it as well. Again, something that we've mentioned before, where we usually only see the lock and close function on luxury class vehicles. So that's about the end for the rear here. I really do like the look of it. I think it's sporty, a little different, a little funky, but really, oh man, when you get inside, when you finally drive this car, you'll understand why I think this could be a serious competitor to a lot of the vehicles on the market. So let's jump in now and talk about what's going on the inside with this XC40. Before I talk about all the interior features with the XC40, I just want to mention how good the space is in here, especially for a subcompact crossover SUV. It really does feel more like a compact crossover, a lot more like our Mazda CX-5, for example. Especially when we think back to the BMW X1, I just feel there's more space in here. Interior space up front and in the back, especially the trunk too, just feels bigger. Now with the R-Design trim, you only get these nubuck R-Design charcoal leather seats. You've got leather on the outside portion, the bolsters of the seats, and then nubuck on the inside. It's a suede type material. Feels really nice, insanely comfortable. I mean, so far we've liked all the seats that Volvo has put into their vehicles, but this, just because of the way that the material is set up, I really like it a lot more. Much more cushiony with the nubuck on the interior. Just feels nice. The heated seats warm up quickly because of it. And I don't know, I just like it. It grips you into position, doesn't feel overly bolstered, which I'm not a huge fan of, but I really do like it. And the driver and passenger seats are powered. Driver's seat has memory, and you've got lumbar support too. So a lot of good stuff with these seats. I do like it. Now, if you talk to the Volvo enthusiasts online, they are a little disappointed with this, considering it is an R-Design car. There isn't as much bolstering as previous R-Design vehicles from Volvo, and there's also no R-Design branding, like something on the headrests or the back of the seat backs. So that's one of the complaints that they had. Not a huge thing. If you don't really care about it, if you're new to Volvo, it probably won't matter, but just something to note. Now, there is no easy exit option for the driver. It's a smaller car, so you wouldn't really need it. Plus, the seating position here is good. I don't find that I would need it. And usually we don't actually need them in any of the cars. I just like to have it. It's nice. You also have R-Design aluminum inlays on the front doors, as well as the R-Design 3-spoke steering wheel. It's basically the same thing, just has the R-Design badging on the center here. But that's about it. R-Design shift knob instead of the Swedish crystal that you would get on the Inscription models. And we've talked about this one before. You have to click it twice to get into gear, click it twice to go into drive. It's a bit of a pain in the butt, especially it sits a little lower, I find, compared to where the other cars that Volvo's produced sits. So it's just a little lower. I find it's a little too low. So they are moving to this system, and I know a lot of people don't like it. Now this has the Vision package, because you do have to add these on even on the Inscription trim. So the Vision package adds blind spot monitoring, auto dimming mirrors, park assist, which will do parallel and perpendicular parking, 360-degree cameras, which we've talked about before. Image quality is fantastic. It's just the way that they line up could be improved a little bit, and power folding mirrors. This also has the convenience package for $1,600. Has a power tailgate, power folding rear seats, pilot assist, which is the semi-autonomous hands-on driving mode when you're on the highway. Adaptive cruise control comes with that. Storage under the driver's seat is very small. You could probably put a wallet there, maybe some paperwork. You can put your license and registration. You have a power child door lock instead of the regular one that you have to turn on and off manually. So the button is on the driver's side there. Turns off the doors and the windows at the same time. You have a 12-volt power in the trunk. Qi wireless charging up front for your iPhone 8 or other devices that are compatible. And HomeLink built into the frameless mirror. Finally, the last package option on this car is the Climate Pack for $1,250. You do get headlight washers, heated steering wheel, heated wipers, heated rear seats. Now, I like it because the heated wipers and the heated reservoir work really well. So if it is cold out, you have junk on your windshield, it'll get cleared off really quickly. And I do like that. Now, one thing to note, this car has 15,000 kilometers on it. Heated steering wheel does not work. The button will turn on. The screen here, the Senses screen, for the infotainment system does have an option to turn it on, but the heated wheel does not get warm. I did replace the fuse for this, thinking that might be the issue, and it still does not work. I am not able to verify if this is a problem with the build quality. I don't know when it stopped working. It was before I got the car. So it's hard to tell if it's because of abnormal wear and tear on it, because it's being used by other journalists all the time, or if it is a problem from the factory and it's something that Volvo needs to address. Maybe it's more faults than just our model. So keep in mind that we haven't been able to figure out if other models have had this problem, but at 15,000 kilometers, the heated steering wheel does not work here. And while we're talking about problems real quick, the HVAC system here, we did have some issues actually when we filmed the XC60, where no heat was coming out of the vents. We had to force the motor to start up properly by putting the fans on maximum speed, maximum heat and kind of kick-started the system. Up front, the heated vents work no problem. It's the rear ones. I have done everything I can to get them to work, and no air comes out of these, even when the system is on maximum speed, maximum heat. So in the back, it's getting fogged up. Again, I can't tell you if that's a problem with this car because of something that's happened to it or because of something that is just built in properly. But those are two major problems that we've had with this car. At $52,000 with 15,000 kilometers on the odometer, we really should not expect these kind of problems. Now, finally, there's two options available on this vehicle. $950 for the 13-speaker Harman Kardon audio system. It sounds very good. And $1,000 for the built-in navigation that comes with the Sensus system here. We've talked about Sensus before. I don't see a huge improvement with this. There's still just too many options, too much clutter when it comes to the infotainment. Startup speed is still bad on this. It's a little bit improved over some of the other vehicles that we featured from Volvo. So there's a little bit more processing power. Aside from that, you still do have the 12.3-inch computer screen in the gauge cluster. I like it. It works well enough. It's not overly detailed, but you've got that information there. There is no HUD on this car. There is no available option for it either. So something to note, some of the other manufacturers, especially in the luxury segment, do offer a HUD. It's not here. Now, we'll talk about a couple quick things. There's mood lighting. It's not really ambient lighting. The mood lighting has a couple built-in colors like we've seen on Volvo models, but it's really just in 3 spots in the headliner. There's also mood lighting that runs along the door cards and the dashboard. It's only one color. There's no choice for that. So I wouldn't call it ambient lighting, more like mood lighting. Panoramic sunroof up top certainly lets in some good light. And I said too, rear seat space is very good. You do have an armrest back there, cup holders, outboard heated seats, and a USB-C charging adapter in the back. So a couple little things there. I just find that the positioning of the heated seat buttons is really low to the ground, really far away. So if you have younger kids, if they're 8 or 9, they want to turn on their heated seats, it might be a little hard for them to get to it. It's just far away. But let's take this vehicle on its road test now, talk about how it is on the road, talk about everything else that we like or dislike about it, and then go over what we think about it as a new entrant into this subcompact crossover SUV market. It's snowing a little bit today. Not quite as much as it was when we had the Subaru Forester, so we're not going to be doing any hardcore snow testing with this, but at least it gives us an opportunity to try out the all-wheel drive system and the winter tires on this car. Now, I've been driving the XC40 for a couple days now, and as I mentioned during our walk around, it really wraps up the entire coverage that we've been doing on Volvo's current model lineup. So we've had a chance to drive their other 2 crossovers, the XC60 and XC90. And the one thing that I noticed about this car when I got into it is, unlike something like the BMW X1, which we have driven this year, this car pretty much has everything that you can get on an XC90. Okay, there's no ventilated seats, but in terms of safety tech, design, functionality, and comfort, it's all there. And I'm a lot comfier in this car than I have been in other vehicles in this segment before. In fact, with this nubuck and leather seating arrangement, it's probably one of the most comfiest subcompact vehicles you can buy. I'm really impressed with the way that this car feels. Now, nubuck is kind of like a suede material, so it's really comfortable. You sink into the seat a little bit. You've got good support on the back and the bottom though, because this is the R-Design, it's the sportier model. You can pull out the leg extenders. You do have lumbar support, 2 driver memory options as well. So pretty well apportioned for a vehicle, while it is expensive, is still in the subcompact crossover segment. So I'm really happy with the comfort here. And we've talked about that on the other episodes we've done on Volvo vehicles, where their seats are always exceptional. And there's no doubt about this, even if you go into their 40 series model, you still get that excellent seat comfort. So truly impressive when it comes to that. Now, power and performance is interesting to note. I was trying to do as much research on this as possible. Like I said, we've only driven the BMW X1 xDrive 28i, so I can't really talk about anything else. But this car competes with also the Audi Q3 and the Mercedes GLA. There really aren't a lot of other subcompact crossover luxury vehicles in this segment right now. Now, the X1, as configured when we tested it, I think it was around the same price. You can get it to be about the same price as this if you load it up with features, and you'll get a few things that you don't get on this, like a head-up display. The Audi Q3 is quite a bit cheaper. I think it's about $45,000 Canadian when fully equipped, and even the Mercedes GLA 250 4MATIC is about $45,000, $47,000 fully equipped. So you're paying a lot more for this by comparison. Now, some of the reasons why it's more expensive is because of the engine. It's not using the T6 twin-charged, supercharged and turbocharged engine. It is the T5. Produces 250 horsepower roughly, which is pretty good. If you compare it back to the BMW X1 that we did, it had 228 horsepower. So it's quite a bit of power for this size of vehicle. Mounted to an 8-speed automatic transmission and all-wheel drive. And so far, even though the roads are not overly bad, they still do have some slush on them, and I don't lose the car around any of the cornering. We did have that experience a little bit a couple weeks ago. We had the BMW 430i xDrive, and because it's a rear-wheel bias all-wheel drive system, you lose the back end a little bit going over some of the slushy stuff. This, no problem at all. But really, the reason why I believe that this is going to cost people more money for this vehicle is because of the safety tech, right? Can you really put a price on enhanced safety? Yeah, I know a lot of people have commented, especially recently, about these vehicles having a lot of driver nannies or driver aids that they don't like. But at the end of the day, I like using them. I like having them there. Even though I don't necessarily need them, it's the same reason why I wear a seatbelt. I don't really expect to drive into a tree, but in the off chance that it happens, it'll at least save my life. Same thing with all of the IntelliSafe technology here. Do I plan on getting hit by a deer? No, but the fact that it's there is certainly a plus. Same thing with the rear collision alert system. Mercedes is the only other brand that comes to mind with a system that truly detects if there's a collision that could be coming from behind and braces the vehicle for it. So you do get things that matter on cars like this. It's not just fluff, it's not just smoke and mirrors. I really do believe that Volvo's approach to safety and their vision that nobody will be killed or seriously injured by 2020 model years is a reality. If they're really serious about it, I mean, they collect the data of any accident that takes place involving a Volvo vehicle. I mean, they're serious about this stuff. I don't know of a single manufacturer that bothers with that. They're taking that information, looking at how people were injured, what the circumstances were in the accident, and what they can do to their vehicles to help prevent those injuries, those deaths in future models. So I think it's a great approach to have. Safety really should be key. It's fun to have all the power, all the tech, and all of that fun stuff, but safety is really key. Nobody wants to die while you're driving your car, especially if you love driving. You get into a serious car accident, it could change your perspective on driving. If you're seriously injured, you might not want to do it ever again. You might not be able to do it again. So I think Volvo's focus on that is certainly key. And yeah, you're going to be paying more for it. There's no doubt about it. At $52,000 Canadian, this is a little bit pricier than the other competition out there. So yeah, you're paying more than if you were to get the BMW X1 or the Mercedes GLA. But I gotta say, there's something about it, just the way that this car rides, sits, and handles, it just feels a little bit better. It's not necessarily performance oriented. You know, we haven't really done any performance stuff, especially with the snow coming down right now, but the ride is exceptionally smooth for a vehicle in this segment. You know, steering is not tight, but it gets the job done. Braking power is good. Handling is good too, going around corners. I don't have any issues. So it is a very solid vehicle. You can certainly get better performing cars out there. You can certainly get better luxury cars out there. But because this car does everything very well, I think that that's one of the reasons why this is going to become a very popular seller for Volvo. I think the only thing that's going to hold them back probably here in Quebec is the fact that for us, the closest dealership is in Sherbrooke. And then after that, it's like Montreal. So the actual ability for people to buy these cars is going to be a little bit harder just because they have a smaller amount of dealerships compared to the competition. But I really think people are going to be looking at this now. If you're in the market for a BMW X1 or a Mercedes GLA, I would seriously consider taking a look at this first. This and the Inscription, they're almost the same price. The Inscription's about $1,000, $2,000 more. You get slightly more luxury-oriented features on the inside, and then you can also have the four-corner active suspension setup, which we've tested on other vehicles from Volvo. Exceptional system, so you can option that too. But definitely, if you're in the market for this type of vehicle, you should be looking at it. I think that this is going to become a very popular seller. Let's talk fuel economy. This Volvo XC40 T5 R-Design ended up doing 7.9 liters per 100 kilometers or 29 US miles per gallon on our 100 kilometer test circuit, and 9.7 liters per 100 kilometers or 24 US mpg during our 693 kilometer week. We'd love to see a dual motor hybrid offered on the XC40 down the road, as Volvo's approach to electrification has been very good so far. And speaking of good, there's a lot to like about this 2019 Volvo XC40. Volvo's overall vision for safety is first and foremost a priority on this vehicle. We also found the overall design excellent on this car, even if die-hard Volvo enthusiasts aren't sold on the R-Design's restrained looks. Interior seat comfort with the nubuck and leather trim is class-leading for us, and overall interior space makes this subcompact luxury crossover feel more like a consumer segment compact. Finally, we have to add the auto stop-start system as a like. We had issues with it on the XC40 T6 and found it was too sensitive. We're happy to report this system is much smoother even when driving in eco mode, and we ended up keeping the system on throughout our week. While two of the main issues we had with the XC40 before weren't problems for us this time, the XC40 R-Design wasn't perfect. We mentioned the heated steering wheel being inoperable, something we wouldn't expect from a vehicle at 15,000 kilometers on the odometer. The rear seat airflow was also a problem for us. I know our paper tests aren't overly scientific, however the rear windows were perpetually fogged up during our week, and our daughter complained that she was too cold. Again, problems we don't really want to have on a $52,000 vehicle at 15,000 kilometers. I'm going to add the Sensus infotainment system to our list again, as we still encountered significant system startup delays even on this model. Considering Volvo wants to be the safety luxury brand, having an easy to use and always ready infotainment system should be a top priority. And finally, we'd like to have a HUD of any kind at this price point, something the BMW X1 xDrive 28i we drove earlier this year offered, and a feature that a number of vehicles are adding in the consumer segment. Volvo is going in the right direction with their vehicles, and their commitment to safety could be the thing that separates them from the rest of the luxury segment. Does this XC40 have the right formula for success though? Only time will tell.